Welcome, travelers, to PA's Nightmare Wednesdays. As always, welcome to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant in my realm. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable, for when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
Not long after they started high school, Isaac sits with his cousins around a large bonfire. Frank, of course, had to bring his girlfriend with him. It seems like if you see Frank, Jenna's not far behind. It had been a long time since they all actually spent time with one another outside of school. So, he decided to gather them together for a campout over the 3-day weekend. Always being a trickster, he decided it would be funny to try and scare them with some good old-fashioned ghost stories. After hours of being unsuccessful, Isaac grew bored and figured bringing a real-life horror story into the mix would spice things up. Hey, have you lot heard of the family that died a few years ago? No, the group says in unison. Well then, gather around and I will tell you what I heard from my brother. He says, from what he gathered, one of his classmates got his hands on a cursed number. The guy, Jackson, said that he and his brother called it, and not a week later, the entire family was found dead, brutally murdered. The rumor goes that if you call the number, you summon a demon that will kill you and drag your souls to hell. One of the people in the group laughs. Isaac stops the story to look at who just interrupted him. He locks eyes with Alexander. Ho! You think this is a joke or something, Alex? First off, I've told you to not call me Alex. And secondly, I think this is a joke. Cursed numbers are a load of shit. None of them work. And yes, we all know about the family. The tragedy was all over the news when it happened. But the cops investigated it and arrested someone. I mean, you should know that. Your dad is a cop after all. Whatever. Where was I before I was so rudely interrupted? Isaac continues. Oh, right. The strange part is they all died in the exact same way. Heads bashed in. At first glance, it appeared that they were self-inflicted. But, like Alex said, they did arrest somebody. But what if they got the wrong guy? Isaac finished with a smug look on his face. As he can see, he effectively scared his cousins. Isaac once again singles out Alexander. So, Alex, if you're so brave, why don't you call the number? Or are you just a big scaredy cat? The group laughs at Alexander, but he just looks at everyone. Fuck you guys, I'm out of here. He gets up and leaves, hearing Isaac call after him. Looks like the baby's crawling home to his mommy. Alexander doesn't even spare him a glance, just shoots him the finger and walks away. After having their laugh at Alexander's expense, Isaac extinguishes the bonfire and everyone heads into their tents for the evening. The next morning, as the sun starts to rise, the group wakes up and dismantles their tents. Then Ben speaks up. We should do it. Isaac, taken aback and forgetting last night's story, asks, do what? We should call the number, Ben suggests. Oh, you really want to call that number? You don't actually believe that number is what killed them, do you? I don't know, but it can't hurt to call the number, right? Well, If you're not gonna do it, then I'll do it myself. Fine. Do what you want. Here's the number. Isaac walks over to his car, opening the glove box, where he pulls out an old receipt, jotting the number quickly onto the piece of paper and handing it to Ben. Ben pulls out his cell phone and dials the number. As the dial tone begins to come through, he taps the speakerphone button. Shortly after, eerie music plays through the speakers. It's almost like bagpipes, but distorted. The sound is high-pitched and hurts their ears. Ben quickly ends the call. Seconds later, everyone's phone begins to ring with an unknown number. None of them answer their phones, yet the distorted tone of the bagpipes plays regardless. Then, just as soon as it started, it stops. What was that? Isaac asks, looking over at Ben. That's not funny. How did you do that? Do what? Ben shouts. Make all of our phones go off like that. Ben shakes his head in protest. It wasn't me. I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, right. Let's finish packing up. The lot of you get lost. I want to enjoy the rest of my weekend before I have to go back to school. As the kids depart, Isaac goes inside, heading straight to his brother's room. Hey, Pepsqueak, get out of my room, his older brother says. I need to talk to you. Have you ever called that number you gave me? Isaac asks, the concern in his voice evident. What? No, why would I? Everyone knows that it's just made up by people that have too much free time on their hands. Ben called the number, and when he did, some strange music played through our phones. And once he ended the call, an unknown number called all of our phones, playing the same music. At this point, he was in complete hysterics. Dude, it was probably just Ben. He must have dialed *69 and called you guys when you weren't paying attention. Well then, how do you explain the creepy music? Isaac demands. He used a playback tone, and y'all just thought it was coming from your phones, when it was just coming from his. That clever bastard! He pranked us all, and we fell for it, hook, line, and sucker. Well, if he thinks he is going to get away with this, he has another thing coming, Isaac states aloud. The next day at school, Isaac meets up with his group of friends, noticing Ben was not there. Hey, do y'all know where Ben is? I have a bone to pick with him. They looked at him, and someone said, I don't think he's here today. When the bus stopped to pick him up, he wasn't there. More like he is hiding. For the shit he pulled yesterday, once I get a hold of him, I'm gonna teach him a lesson or two. As if on cue, the loudspeaker sounds off. All students need to make their way to the gymnasium for an emergency assembly. The group looked at each other, wondering what is going on, but follows the rest of their classmates to the gym without complaint. Once seated, Isaac notices that standing beside the principal was his father. Dude, what's your dad doing here? One of his cousins questions. Another one says, Oh, looks like you're in trouble, buddy. What'd you do? I didn't do anything. Now, shut up and listen. I am sure we will find out what is going on, if you're just patient. As he finishes saying this, the principal begins to speak. Students, it is my unfortunate responsibility to inform you that at some point last night, Ben Ashmore passed away. With me, I have Officer Flanagan. He will tell you kids everything he is able to about what happened. And if you have any questions, faculty will be made available to any student that needs it. Officer Flanagan began to speak. At some point last night, Ben passed away. It is unclear as to what or how it happened, but we can say no more as it is an active investigation. If you have any questions or need someone to talk to, counselors, and other professionals will be made available to you. Thank you, and everyone, please stay safe and look out for one another. Also, if you have any relative information, please contact your local police department. We all need to come together in light of this tragedy. After the assembly is over, Isaac saunters out of the gymnasium with his cousins. After school, we need to meet up and discuss what happened, he says. Ben's loss had rocked Isaac's world, and he was in a daze. One moment he was numb, the next he was crying. They asked him and his cousins if they wanted to go home, but the parents were at work and could not get away. Besides, he wanted to be at school. It was a welcome distraction from the grief. School passed by quickly, and before he knew it, he would be home. Shortly after, his cousins would arrive at his house. After the school day ends, Isaac walks out to find Alexander waiting for him outside. "Hey, Isaac, I want to say I'm so sorry for your loss, and if you need to talk, I'm here for you, man." Isaac looks at Alexander and punches him in the face. "Fuck you, Alex. This is your fault. If you had been there, Ben would still be alive. He was your younger brother. You should have protected him." Isaac then runs away crying as he gets on the bus and heads home. When he gets there, he sits on the porch, waiting for the rest of his cousins to arrive. Once they arrive, Isaac stands up, dusts himself off, and speaks to them. "Follow me," he says as he rushes into his house and makes a beeline right to his father's office. "What are we doing here?" one of them protests. "This is your father's office. If we get caught here, we are dead." "Listen, Jenna, Frank, Ben is dead. I want to know how he died." They didn't push him further, but followed in silence. They both are still hurting from the loss of their friend, and want to know what happened just as much as he does. Once they get into the office, Isaac picks the lock to his father's filing cabinet, quickly finding Ben's file. His dad filed everything in alphabetical order. He had always been very organized. Isaac reads the report aloud. When Officer Flanagan and Smith responded to a call from Miss Ashmore at 10:30 p.m. on the 30th of April, Ben Ashmore was found dead in his bedroom. At first glance, it appeared he passed from self-inflicted injuries. His skull had been bashed in from being smashed into a wall repeatedly, which was evident from the bone and blood splatter. Upon getting him to the medical examiner, it was determined that the damage that had been inflicted was beyond what a conscious person would be capable of. It is the opinion of this medical examiner that he was murdered. You guys, I know this is strange, but it reminds me of an incident. Remember Jack and James and how they moved away last year? Isaac points out. Frank says, "Yeah, I did not know them well, but I saw them around. What about them? How do they have anything to do with what happened to Ben?" "Well, I got a call from Jack. His brother and father went missing, along with a lot of other dudes. He says a creature took them. It was weird, and what is going on now seems like it could be a similar event," Isaac claims. "The cops found no evidence of an intruder. On top of that, they said Ben could not have done this to himself. I got a feeling it has something to do with the number." Jenna and Frank laugh nervously. "You're joking, right?" "Nothing is going on, buddy. He killed himself, or someone killed him. There is no supernatural monster out there killing people. You heard your dad, man. Get some rest, please. You're worrying us. Jenna and I are going to my house. You want to come?" Frank asks. "Nah, man. I'm just gonna relax and try to get my head straight. You're right. I must be going crazy." "You guys take it easy. Call me later, okay?" Frank and Jenna left his house. Upon arriving at Frank's house, they rush up to his room. They turn the music on and start to make out. The loss of Ben had really hurt them. They needed a distraction. As they got lost in each other's company, the music stops, and Frank's phone started to ring. Annoyed, he grabs his cell phone and answers it. Hello, this better be good. No one was on the other end, but both of them heard a faint sound come from the Bluetooth speaker, where the music they were making out to played moments earlier. Both of them slowly walked up to the speakers. The music was alluring, almost as if their actions were not their own. As they approached the speakers, the sound that was first indistinguishable grew louder and louder. It was that distorted bagpipe music again. Once they got right in front of the speakers, as if on cue, a scream came through them. The sound grew louder and louder till neither of them could take it anymore. The music threw them into a frenzy. It felt as if their brains were on fire and acid was flowing through their blood. They only had one desire at this point, for it to stop. Jenna ran to the wall and proceeded to bash her head off the wall repeatedly, while Frank ran over to his closet, grabbing a metal bat. Running over to Jenna, he bashes her in the back of her head. She fell and hit the floor. He strikes her a few more times to make sure she is dead, then proceeds to bash in his own skull with the bat. Finally, feeling better, Isaac looks over at the clock. It was around 9 p.m. Almost 8 hours had passed by. He thinks it's strange that he hadn't heard from his friends, so he gives them a call. Both Frank and Jenna's phones go straight to voicemail, so he calls the landline Frank's parents insisted on keeping. What a dinosaur, he says to himself. After a few rings, Frank's mother answers the call. When he asks where Frank was, she once again breaks into sobs. When Isaac pressed her, she told him there was some kind of music playing. It sounded like bagpipes, but they sounded wrong. Shortly after, it was followed by a screaming. By the time she got into the room, both of them were dead, and it looked like Frank had gone crazy and killed her and then himself. This doesn't sit well with Isaac, so he calls his grandmother and tells her all that has been happening. As he describes the cursed number, the bagpipes, and the shrieking, his grandmother once again recounts the tale of the banshee to her grandson. She tells him that no one has ever survived being marked by the banshee, and that she is sorry. Isaac goes to press her further, but the line disconnects. Convinced that there has to be another answer, he starts using all the information he gathered from his grandmother and Frank's mom. Only one result came up. It was a banshee, a wailing spirit that was after him. Sleep does not come easy that night. He is far too scared that if he lets his guard down, she will come for him. He finally falls asleep. He makes it through the night, but who knows how long that will last. He is next. The banshee will come for him sooner rather than later. The next day at school, Isaac finds Alexander. Hey, Alex, I need to talk to you, he shouts in a panic. Alexander turns around to yell at him that it's Alex, but he could see his cousin is scared. Still mad at Isaac for accusing him of being the reason his little brother is dead, he simply responded with, "What?" Isaac unleashes the floodgates of what happened to Frank and Jenna. What his grandmother had told him. He tells Alexander that he is going to die at the hands of a banshee, that he needs his help. After hearing the story, Alexander replies with, "What horseshit is this? Are you trying to prank me again?" "I'm telling you the truth, man. I need your help, please." Isaac begs, "I know I've been a shitty cousin and a worse friend, but I'm sorry, man. But it's no reason for you just to let me die." Just as he finishes, his phone rings. "I'm not answering it. Nope, I'm not gonna answer it. I'll ignore it. If I ignore it, I'll be okay." Alexander laughs at Isaac's fear. "Are you for real, dude? Just answer your fucking phone." "No!" he shouts. The next thing Isaac knows, Alexander grabs his phone. "Dude, it's just your mom. Please, Alex, don't answer the phone." It's Alexander, and it's just your mom. Alex answers the phone and gives it to Isaac. Hello? Hello, Mom, is that you? The tune he described earlier plays as a shriek comes from the phone, which grows louder and louder. Alexander goes to ask him what is happening, but Isaac has a faraway look in his eye. He drops the phone and slowly walks over to a set of metal lockers, proceeding to bash his head off them repeatedly. Alexander tries to stop him, but he cannot. Isaac pushes him away, and he continues to smash his head against them. After one last hit, Alexander hears a loud crack, and Isaac falls to the ground. Alexander bends down and checks for a pulse. He tries to call for help, but his phone is not working. He gets up and runs down the hall, screaming for help. He gets about halfway down the hall. His phone also begins to ring. He stops to pull it from his pocket with a shaking hand. The screen shows private caller, number unlisted. Instead of answering the phone, he throws it to the ground and continues to run. However, as he runs by the payphones, they begin to ring too. Tonight's story, When It Calls, was written by myself. If you enjoyed this, chances are you will enjoy the content over on Randos Calrissian's channel. He is a brand new narrator and has amazing content. His links will be in the description below. Also, again, I just want to keep shouting out AK Phoenix and her amazing intro. Thank you so much for this. That's that time again. Last week's word was shenanigans. The comment comes from T-Stash. You kids, and your hippin' and your hoppin'. Enough with your shenanigans. Get off my lawn! Thank you, T-Stash. That was very amusing. This week's word of the week is implode. IMPLODE. It means to cause or cause to collapse violently inwards, or end or fall suddenly or dramatically. I also have merch now. If you would like to walk around representing my realm and gaining me new travelers, the links will be in the description below. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to my lovely Patreons. 242 Reads, Randos Calrissian, Pam, Seraphine the Midnight Bard, Silver Threads, and Hair-Raising Narratives. If you would like to join these lovely travelers by the light of my fire, by becoming a Patreon, you can do so as well. But the support is always appreciated and never expected.
But as always, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.